Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all doing well. And today, my friends, we're here to talk about Stormgate. So today at the Summer Games Fest, in case you missed it, Frost Giant Studios did announce the title and also gave us a little bit of a glimpse into their upcoming major RTS game, Stormgate. And I have to say, I am super excited. So a lot of the Frost Giant folks do come from Blizzard and did Warcraft 3. They also did StarCraft 2. So those are two of my favorite games of all time. When I was in college, I put in countless hours and barely passed some of my classes because I was playing in tournaments for StarCraft 2 and Wings of Liberty, and it was just so much fun. And Warcraft 3 is probably my favorite RTS game of all time. I had so much fun with it, and looking at some of the screenshots that they did show today at Summer Games Fest, which of course will be up on the screen now, it really did kind of remind me of Warcraft 3. It kind of looked like a modernized version of Warcraft 3, which to me is super encouraging. So they did give us some details. There's obviously going to be more than two playable factions, but we did see essentially a glimpse at two of the playable factions today, one of which is the Human Resistance, which appears to be kind of a sci-fi, somewhat inspired by Turin. They have these like mech suits that look very similar for anyone who comes from a Warhammer background. They look like the Tau. They have these like crisis suits that obviously can fly around, so very, very reminiscent, at least for us Warhammer folks, of the Tau. And they also had some foot soldiers who looked, pretty cool indeed. And the other faction that we got a little bit of a glimpse in looks on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. It looks very fantasy focused. They're kind of this demonic host, and we got to see a demon. And of course, in the screenshots here, you can see these little like hellhound type creatures. So super hyped to see what the other factions look like as well. But I'm kind of curious I don't know if they've confirmed it yet, but are they going to be going for the classic like three factions, which of course we saw in StarCraft with the Terran, Zerg, and Protoss? Or are we going to be seeing more? I honestly wouldn't mind seeing more. I'm kind of spoiled, having been playing Total War Warhammer for years. We have like, when Immortal Empires comes out, we're going to be having like 23 playable factions, but overall very excited. So let's break down the details. So they said there's two factions revealed, which again, I just talked about, and they're going to be revealing more as they go forward. And the barrier of entry is going to be a little bit easier for this game. And that was one of the big selling points they were essentially talking about at Summer Games Fest, is that it's going to be a little bit easier to get into than other RTS games, which I do think is very good. That, I think, has been one of the big obstructions for RTS in general. I can't tell you how many friends of mine that I went to high school with and folks I met in college who I tried to get into StarCraft, I tried to get into Total War. And for folks who didn't have like that youth RTS background, myself, I've been playing RTS games since Warcraft 2 Tides of Darkness. So, you have those fundamentals that you've developed. It's kind of like muscle memory, right? Like for folks who hit the gym a lot, they can go back and usually pick it up pretty quickly. But we have that RTS muscle memory. But I had a lot of friends who didn't. And honestly, I couldn't get them interested in the games. And it was always a little bit of a bummer. Granted, the games are still great. But I do like that approach. And I'm really curious how they're actually going to be trying to do that. They did also mention that the game is going to be free to play, but there's not going to be any pay to win mechanics or anything like that. I would imagine if there's going to be monetization, it's probably going to be via like skins or things like that. And honestly, I don't mind aesthetic stuff at all. It's really just when like there's gameplay functionality that, you have to pay for to get. That is pretty terrible. But in terms of aesthetics, I don't mind that. Although they didn't like confirm, I don't think that that's going to be a thing. But regardless, they did say it's going to be free to play, which is certainly cool. It'll be easy to get people into and be an easy selling point. So they're going to have co-op campaign up to 3 people, I believe they said. So obviously, if you want to play through the campaign with your friends, you can, which I think is very cool. And they're going to have competitive 3v3, they did mention. I would assume they'll probably have a competitive 2v2, but of course 1v1 is going to be the main focus, which I think is very, very important. I think the game should be balanced around 1v1 because from a spectator perspective and kind of a narrative of developing these players and these communities and whatnot, I think 1v1 is hands down the most important. So yeah, I'm really hyped, guys, and this is going to be something that I'm going to be covering very, very heavily on the channel. As soon as I get access to this, they mentioned that the beta is going to be mid-2023, and you can sign up for the beta now on Play Stormgate, so I'll show you guys that in just a second, but I'm going to be hosting tournaments, and even when I get access, I'm thinking of doing a whole week of tournaments. Like we have like a 5 or 6 day run of events where we just go every day and really just get into the game and see what it's all about. So super, super hyped for this, guys. It's not often we get good RTS games. It's been pretty good to us the past couple of years, right? We've had Age of Empires, which I think is an amazing game. It's really come to a great place. And of course, Total War Warhammer will be pretty awesome once we get the Immortal Empires added in as well. So let's go ahead and break it down and take a look at the website. All right, guys, and now we're here on the website, which is playstormgate.com. So if you're looking to get involved in the beta, I would imagine all you have to do is sign up with your email, and invites will probably be going out like a year from now. I believe they did say mid-2023, so that is the time frame we'll be looking at. Hope to see you guys out there on the battlefield. Now, scrolling down, join the future of RTS. Stormgate is a free-to-play PC real-time strategy game set hundreds of years in Earth's future. Take command of the Human Resistance, which we've been talking about, or the demonic invaders, or other factions. Okay, so that does answer the question. There are going to be more than 3 factions. Otherwise, they would have just, said one other faction, right? to be revealed solo or competitively. So of course you can play competitive in 1v1 and 3v3, or there's going to be a cooperative game mode for campaign. For those of you guys who might be interested more in the narrative aspect of things, they are going to be having that. So builder-based, harvest resources, and lead a mighty army. And honestly, this like simplistic sentence here is just so encouraging, because that's the classic RTS formula. Gather resources, build a base. We've seen a lot of like hybrid kind of MOBA style RTS games where there's like a lot of zone control, a lot of lanes, not so much open maps. You're not harvesting resources, but there's like capture points more so. So it's certainly like, I'm a huge fan of the classic RTS. Like I'm talking Warcraft, Tides of Darkness, Warcraft 3, The Frozen Throne is probably one of my favorite games of all time, like I said. And of course you can see, yeah, this is going to be following that formula, because like I said, a lot of the developers do come from that Warcraft and StarCraft background. Here's a little screenshot here. You can see the Human Resistance faction with what appears to be dropships. And yeah, these look very similar to Tau broadside battlesuits. And it looks like they do also have some like Imperial Guard-esque infantry, which, yeah, seems like a faction I would enjoy playing. I've always liked to play Turin. Turin was one of my mains, and Protoss as well. But man, I have to say, I am really curious what they're going to be mixing in for the other factions. Because here we have like a very futuristic sci-fi faction. Then the demonic invaders, of course, are, you know, honestly have a very fantasy element about them. So the game is kind of a hybrid between those, which makes sense if you have Warcraft developers as well as StarCraft developers. You're going to get kind of some sort of a mix of those two elements. But I'm curious what the other factions could be for sure. Maybe some sort of like a renegade bandit faction, who knows. But next generation esports, that's also encouraging. That means that there's probably going to be big support from the developers as it pertains to esports. Play 1v1 ladder games with matchmaking or squad-based 3v3. Compete in grassroots tournaments, which I'll be hosting a ton on my channel. If you guys are looking to get involved in tournaments, you're in the right place. I'll be hosting probably 4 or 5 tournaments a week when it first launches, and really getting super active and trying to play the game myself and just learn the basics. And they do also mention here that the universe is going to be expanding. So we had it in Warcraft 3, right? So we launched with Warcraft 3, Reign of Chaos, and then we got the Frozen Throne, which added new units. In StarCraft, we had Wings of Liberty, which is the one I played very heavily. Then we had, Legacy of the Void. We had Heart of the Swarm that all added new units, which I think was really fun over the course of a couple of years to just, reinvigorate the game, basically, because you'd be surprised in RTS games, even in Total War Warhammer, like when they add like a new map, even just a basic new map or like a couple new units, it literally reinvigorates the game for months to come. So I do think that that is certainly cool, that they're going to be adding stuff, and it is going to be free to play as well. I would imagine it will probably be monetized via like skins and things like that. So scrolling down, it looks like Stormgate's in-game editor is a powerful tool for, it looks like you can build your maps, game modes, and more in the Unreal 5 engine. So I wonder how open they'll be about this, because I know like Warcraft 3 basically spawned like Dota and these other big titles, but seeing that they will have that, I think is encouraging, especially for the competitive scene to make maps. Like having a good map making tool, I think is really good, because it's just adding that spice and variance to your tournaments, and being able to get these really good community made maps, because of course the developers of the game only have so much time, right? But you'd be surprised how much time we the players have to do things like this. So scrolling down to the FAQ here, when will it officially launch? Beta testing in mid-2023. You can sign up above, like I said. And again, how do you sign up? You just go to the top of the page. And yeah, that's it, guys. Stormgate is being developed by Frost Giant Studios. Members of our development team have been privileged to help create some of the most acclaimed and best-selling PC games of all time, including Warcraft 3 and StarCraft 2, which to me is just, that's all I need to hear. I'm going to put faith in that for sure. So guys, hopefully you enjoyed this. We'll be covering this very heavily, and as they do release news on the factions and all that, I'll be covering pretty much everything as it pertains to this game. As it approaches, whatever information gets put out, I'll be sharing with you guys. So thanks again for joining. We'll see you on the other side, my friends, and RTS is back, baby.